I feel there are churches and organizations out there that are racially motivated, racially segregated, and they're using religion as a cover to further their racist causes. A prime example of that was a guy named Reverend Richard Butler. Reverend Butler formed the Aryan Nations up in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. Reverend Butler believed that white people were superior and we needed our own homeland. The concept of separate but equal. Now, the first person I know of that coined that phrase was actually Malcolm X, when he wanted to form a black homeland in the southern eastern part of the country. Now, the Aryan Nations was sued by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they were sued to such a point that they basically disappeared. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center is an organization that tracks racism and racists in this country. They have a list of hate groups, racist groups that they maintain, and they are civil rights activists. 133 groups on that list are black organizations. So I submit to you, racism is not just white people. Racism is also black people. Racism is also Hispanics. There are Jews who are racist. You know, hate and hate crimes against white people happens every day. But because I think white people have been so berated and put down and made to feel guilty about the past that we're reluctant to say anything about it. You know, a hate crime is defined as a crime that is made more heinous because it's committed based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religious preference. Have you ever heard of a hate crime against a white person? I haven't. According to the FBI, the second largest recipient group of hate crimes in New York are whites. How many people watching this or listening to this have ever heard of the zebra murders? The zebra murders were over 70 murders that took place in the San Francisco area between 1973 and 1974. These murders were committed by a group called Death Angels, which was a splinter group of the Nation of Islam. Louis Farrakhan. It's a religious organization, but it's also a hate group. Nation of Islam is on that list that the Southern Poverty Law Center maintains. Nation of Islam isn't even acknowledged as part of Islam by Islam. But there's also some more mainstream racists that use their religion or their position as church leaders for racist gains. I'll break a great taboo here and I'll say Reverend Jesse Jackson. He's a bigot and a racist. How many people just went, oh my God, you can't say that about Reverend Jackson? You know, he marched with Martin Luther King. Yes, he did, to his credit, and he's done a lot for civil rights. But he's also quoted as saying, God gave you your skin color, why not use that to your advantage? That's a racist statement. And I think it was also Reverend Jackson that's referred to New York as Hymietown a couple of years ago, referring to the Jewish population. He's even made racist comments against blacks. You know, he's quoted in the U.S. News and World Reports 10 March 1996 as saying, there's nothing more painful to him than to walk down a street, hear footsteps behind him, think he's fixing to be robbed, turn around and see a white person and be relieved. Another religious leader who is a blatant racist, Reverend Al Sharpton. Now, Al Sharpton, he was a minister, you know. He's quoted as saying white people were living in caves while we were out building civilizations. We taught philosophy, astrology, and mathematics before Socrates and those Greek homos. Reverend Sharpton, what civilizations were you building while white people were living in caves? They have this thing called anthropology, and according to anthropology, which is a proven science, when people were living in caves, talking about Neanderthals, white people, black people were living on the savannas in Africa, following herds of animals, being hunter-gatherers. What civilizations are you talking about? Human civilization records go back about, give or take, 4,000 years, when the first civilizations were being built in the Middle East. Now, Reverend Sharpton, I'm sure you have a lot of resources available to you. Why don't you find one of your people sitting next to you and ask them what the races really are? There's 3 races: Caucasoid, Negroid, and Mongoloid. Races are defined by physical characteristics. Okay? The people that built civilizations in the Middle East, Caucasoid. White people, not blacks. Arabs are part of the Caucasoid race. Okay? So before you go making stupid comments, learn what you're talking about. Racism in this country is always going to be, and that's unfortunate. Racism in this country will be here as long as people keep playing the race card. The Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, said in a recent Supreme Court decision, the best way to stop racism is to stop racism. That is so simple, but it's so true. When we quit playing the race card and calling each other racist, it'll go away. It's like scratching a mosquito bite. The more you scratch it, the more it itches. If you quit scratching it and leave it alone, it'll quit itching. Racism can be that simple. Same thing. Quit scratching it, quit irritating it and aggravating it and playing a race card. You gotta let it go. That's the only way we're gonna get anywhere. Racism will go away when we quit using it, when we quit talking about it and debating it. I'm not saying we should hide it and cover it up. It's always going to be. There's always going to be racism and bigotry. But you know what? The people that are in positions to influence mass amounts of people, like Al Sharpton, like Jesse Jackson, quit being racist. Quit pushing a racist agenda. Let it go. That's when racism will really go away. Affirmative action isn't applicable anymore. We don't need it. The person best qualified for a job is the one that needs to get it. Let's stop with the racism. Let's quit using religion as a racist card. Religion's a wonderful thing. It's got lots of good stuff about it. Quit corrupting it. You guys are reverends. Spread peace, love, and joy, man. Everybody sing Kumbaya, drink a Coke, whatever. But, racism's not just white people. There's lots of racists out there. Of every color, creed, religion, sexual orientation. Let it go. Quit using religion as a tool to further racism. You guys have a good week. I'll see you next week.